Hi, I'm Sierra McAllister, and welcome to Mastering Your Major Scales, a 7-day challenge. I am very excited that you're joining me for this. I love scales. I'm a big fan of scales. I know that a lot of people feel that scales are boring or that scales are daunting. Some people feel overwhelmed by them. Some people feel like they understand parts of them, but not all of them. I think there's a lot of gray area when it comes to scales. But you're here. So obviously you're intrigued by scales. Maybe you just think they're good for you. Maybe you think it's like eating your vegetables. You just should know your scales. So you're here to punish yourself. Or maybe you love scales and you want to get better at them. Maybe you kind of have an idea of why they're good for you, but you haven't really seen it through to fruition so that they're actually showing up for you. So this first introduction video, I just want to talk to you about why scales. All right, so let me tell you, you probably know a couple of these. You probably have your own ideas. I'd love to hear from you about your ideas. Here's what I feel about scales. First of all, if you think scales are boring, you do not know them. You do not know them. Once you know them, they are not boring, okay? So just trust me on that. At the end of this course, you're gonna know them, and I don't think you're gonna find them boring. Eventually, you can fly through them with the greatest of ease, and they become very meditative. So if you're just, you just need to kind of zone out, you just fly through these. Who doesn't love that? When I practice my scales, I feel very zen. I do them at the beginning of my practice sessions, and I actually feel that they're like a reward because I know them. It's not the hard part of my practice session at all. It's the easy part. It's the part where I feel good, I sound good, I don't have to think too hard. It helps to ease me into a practice session in a way that feels very like I'm drawn to it. It helps me to sit down at the piano, do something that feels good, and then move into something that gets more difficult. So they are very meditative. Scales will, of course, increase our agility, our strength, and our good technique. So it's like lifting weights. Okay. The scales are absolutely going to strengthen your fingers. They're going to help you to play with ease and relaxation. They're going to help you to play quick passages. They're going to help you to play with control. So when I'll give you exercises that are going to help you to really learn how to control which notes are accented, which notes are staccato, what's the dynamic. So they help you with all kinds of technique. Scales reinforce music theory. So in order to play your scales, you have to know the key signatures. They go hand in hand. And in this course, you're going to be talking about the key signatures. We're going to be talking simultaneously about key signatures with the scales and the scale fingering. So they help us to know a key inside and out, okay? We have to know that the key of E has 4 sharps. In order to play in this key, we have to have that so locked in that when we sit down, our hands just go there. So knowing scales, it helps us to just kind of have an intuitive muscle memory about what is the roadmap of this key. And then what does that help us with? Well, a lot of things. First of all, improvising. So if you know a key, inside and out, you know what notes are going to sound good. So improvisation really is just knowing what notes to choose on the fly, right? Well, that comes from knowing your key signatures. So if you're in the key of E and you want to create a melody or take a solo in E, so you just use the notes of the E scale. Or sure, it gets more complicated later. You use the notes of the E pentatonic scale or the mixolydian or the E blues scale, but it's all just scales. It's just knowing key signatures and knowing what notes are accessible to you when you're improvising. So really important for improvising. Scales also help you to sight read. So this is a big one. When you're reading music, again, if you're in the key of, let's say, F sharp, well, you know what notes are in that key. Okay, so you're gonna be reading music, but you're sort of making educated guesses. There's a note that's really high up on the staff, instead of E, G, every good boy does, you kind of just like, oh, you can see that that's an octave from where you were. Well, you're going to put your hand on an F sharp, not an F, because you know the scale, you know the key, you know the key signature. So I compare it to reading like if you're learning to read, it's the difference between sounding out every vowel or every note, every vowel sound or every syllable one at a time, like learning to read like that. That's the equivalent of learning to play music without understanding the key signatures versus being able to see the whole word or the whole phrase or the whole sentence. That's what it is to read music with an understanding of the key signature. It also helps you to make intuitive choices about fingering. So you may have seen, sometimes you're reading a passage. I see this all the time where maybe the melody is, okay? Well, if you know the key that you're in and you've played the scale of this key 100 times, 1,000 times, you're going to just naturally make a cross. So I crossed here. Well, why did I do that? I don't know, because I've played the E scale a million times and I just know that that's what I need to do to keep going with that melody. If you didn't know that, you'd probably do this and then you'd go. Okay, and so that is so choppy. It doesn't sound good and it really slows you down. But if you can kind of see that whole melody, you can make intuitive guesses about the fingering. It doesn't happen consciously. I wasn't thinking I'm gonna cross there. You're not aware of it when it's happening. Your body just does it because you've done the scale. So that's like so many great bonuses. It also helps you with songwriting. So if you're a composer or a songwriter, I am, oh my gosh, like knowing what key you're in, knowing what notes are, songwriting is creating melodies. So you're making melodies that fit in the key. You're playing chords that fit in the key or not. But if you're not, you know that you're not on purpose. Huge for composing, for songwriting. So it really does help you to become creative eventually. They are the backbone of a successful practice session, of a successful performance. So if I'm going to perform, I'll do a really long scale session where I do all my major scales and all my minor scales, and then I do them in multiple octaves and with the metronome and contrary and counter motion. I do it with arpeggios and I run through the whole series of exercises. It takes me about 10 minutes. It doesn't take long. At the end of it, I feel like my fingers feel really warm. My brain is ready to go. And I feel really it helps to settle me into the performance or practice session so that I'm ready, like my body and my mind are ready to go. So those are just some of the whys. I hope that has convinced you and made you excited about them.